Hey, gang, I wanted to share this with you. This is an example of one of the most glorious sounds I've ever gotten out of my lap steel. And it was a little bit of an accident. So that board that I posted a few days ago where I was talking about the most important piece of gear in my studio is an EQ pedal, because an EQ pedal can give you 3 or 4 different overdrive sounds just through one overdrive by changing the curves and whatnot. And it can just make your instrument sound better, or switching between instruments, because every instrument has its own thing, right? Okay. So I simply, for the first time, it's the first time I used it, that board, just plugged it in. I had this part, we're redoing Rotten Dream, which is one of those songs that I featured in creating an album from scratch, that series. It was song 8, I think, or 6. I think it was song 6. And Greg Griffiths did a mix, did a really good job. But there was just something, I don't know. I can't set things out into the wild unless they're right. So I was like, what's wrong with it? So I did some new vocals. I tripled my vocals, which I haven't done in like 25 years. I used to double them. That used to be the thing back in the 90s and the 80s. And, but this, I thought that a triple, by taking a different vocal approach, a different attack with each vocal, like almost a whisper on one and a little, almost a falsetto on another, and then a richer one. And taking the approach that it was just not as hard overall. Anyway, did that. And then I did some background vocals. Okay, that was cool too. But then I was like, okay, if you remove the acoustic guitar, which was the basis of the whole song, because Greg and I talked about that, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, it's a folk song. And I'm like, no, it's not really a folk song. But I understood why he said that. And even though all the elements were recorded to the acoustic, I was like, wait a minute, let's take the acoustic out. And there were some keyboard parts I had added that you haven't heard yet. You will when you hear the final mix. And then I was like, it's still missing one thing. So I plugged in the new board. That's all I did. I plugged it in, powered it up for the first time, put it into an amp. So it's the board into the HX effects. The only thing that was going in the HX effects was the reverb that I like. There's a spring reverb. I think it's a 63 spring with a really long tail. And the auto pan going into it. So it's got this rich, wide sort of thing. But that was all the HX effects were doing. And then like I said, I plugged in and went and started playing. And this is what occurred. Now, this isn't the final piece, as beautiful as it sounds, because it was actually, as weird as this is going to sound, there's just too many notes. Even though there's not a lot of notes, it was like too much movement. It just needed to be a textural thing. So you'll have to wait to hear the final mix to check that out. But I wanted you to hear this glorious sound. All it was on was, I picked this up after I put the board together, really cheap on Reverb. It's the first time I've ever used this device. And these were the settings that I used. And I ran this into that board. So the only things that were on were the Geminis doubler. I always use some sort of doubling thing with the lap steel. It just sounds better to me. And I think this Geminis thing is pretty dang cool. And the EQ, no overdrive whatsoever. But I did have the vibe section of the Midnight Sol, the Midnight Sun fuzz vibe from Fjord Fuzz. The vibe section was on. And a patch I made on the Enzo X, the Maris Enzo X. And that patch was sort of like a floaty ring mod in the feedback section of it, kind of like textural thing. And I really didn't know what it ever sounded like on a recording because I hadn't used it yet. I just like most of us do. You sit here and you tweak your settings in a new device, and then, it sounds good. And so this was the first time I'd used it. And that was it, except I think I pointed out I have a mini TC feedback, a little, what's it called? The mini delay, the little, like, they have the TC electronic delay with tone prints, but this one's the mini, so you can only have one tone print. And what I did with it is I used to have an Akai head rush, and that Akai head rush, if you put it on really short time, but turn the feedback all the way up, it wouldn't fully oscillate, but it would kind of like sort of ring back into itself and on the edge of oscillation. So I was able to create a tone print and improve it actually from what my head rush used to do by, putting some modulation in there and some dirt, a little texture, EQ, what have you. So after the Enzo X, that was on for the whole track, and then just into the HX effects for reverb. And what you're about to hear is what I got. And this isn't the part. This sounds great, but this isn't the part. I just want to hear how gorgeous this sound is with this thing into that rig for the first time, just plugging it in. And one of the other things I think that happened is I have the Elephant Man delay on in the HX effects before the reverb, but it's controlled by an expression pedal. And wherever the expression pedal was, the repeats were really long. The feedback was long, and that played into this whole thing. Anyway, it's gorgeous. Let's take a listen to it. It's pretty cool to me. Oh, and the compadre compressor was on the whole time. So there was some compression up front. So that to me is amazing. Believe it or not, it sounds great, but it wasn't right for the song. It was just too much. And it was also like a timing thing. Without the acoustic guitar in there, you're just following the vocal. And so it would have to be like every note would have to be with the vocal. So what I ended up doing was going with a textural thing overall, just to add some dimension, I guess, and width, and another part that kind of swirls underneath the whole thing. But I just wanted to show you that and let you hear it because it's pretty damn cool. And the other thing that this thing allows you to do is normally I'd be using a volume pedal to get swells and so you're not getting that initial attack of the note. Or I would be using an EBow. And I did try a few takes with the EBow, but the softness of this, because it allowed me to actually attack with my fingers and the bar without using a volume pedal and without using the EBow, it was a different sound. It was so the EBow would actually excite the strings too much, and there wasn't enough definition that swelled in for the note. And that's where the EHX really excelled. I was really impressed by this. Was just plug in, dial up, go. And I didn't do anything else. And I was really impressed by that. So, and that's also where an EQ can come in handy, because I just made it sound good for my instrument and saved the preset. Boom. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I think you'll enjoy this song now that it's much closer to fruition. One of the things I hate doing is redoing stuff that I thought was done. But this song and the second song, which was He Never Loved Me Anyway, that I wrote for my mom, that one needed to be redone. That one just needed a vocal, because Greg took a very interesting approach with the mix. And it just was way more open and ethereal and less, straight ahead grooving than I had originally anticipated. And I think he took the right approach with that. So it needed a more intimate approach with the vocals. So I redid that too. So hopefully you'll hear both of them very soon. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.